So nice of you to return. A confused young woman needs our advice, but we'll get to Cleo in a moment. Don't. Ixnay on the arfing lay. This is a serious moment. Dear Doug and Beauties, I'm a 19-year-old girl who was adopted when I was about 4. I've been brought up in a loving family by parents who I adore immensely. Recently, my birth mother contacted me and we met for the first time. Unfortunately, she seems plagued by problems and spent the whole time telling me what an awful life she has. She never once asked me how I was or how I felt about my life. She wants to continue the relationship with me, but I don't think I can put up with her selfishness. What should I do? Confused of Queensland. Fiona.
Well, obviously turn to me first because I'm adopted and I've met my biological mother. And actually my parents, Barbara and Kevin, met my biological mother for the first time very recently, but even though I've known Eric and my biological mother now for about 8 years. But this letter, I guess, in a sense, the mother has contacted you to meet you. It isn't the other way around. I mean, I looked for my mother, I guess is what I'm saying. There were questions about myself that I needed answered. I'd had a traumatic, childhood with my parents. I think like a lot of teens, I was quite rebellious. But I've had a very close relationship with my parents, Barbara and Kevin now, and I felt I was at a point where it was ready for me to find out whatever I could about my birth mother so that I could understand a little bit more about who I was as a person, where I came from, and it's been very rewarding. And I'm lucky in that sense that I have had a rewarding experience meeting my birth mother. I think though, given that this is the first time you've met her and you say that she was, selfishly talking about her needs, her life, you have to be patient. I think it's inevitable that, with an adopted situation, there's going to be baggage. And I think maybe you should just give your mother, your biological mother, a little bit more time to get used to the fact that she's met you. And she obviously has issues she needs to discuss with you, but don't write her off after the first meeting. I think it's taken 8 years for me to get to a point where my parents and my birth mother met. We always they knew I'd met Erica a while ago, but it took that long to just for enough, I guess, dust to settle, to just really, so that the meeting could be rewarding for all of us, because there's a lot, to see my biological mother and my mother who brought me up, who is my mother as far as I'm concerned, in that she raised me, went the hard yards with me and everything, to see them hug, and it was the most extraordinary and beautiful thing. It was,
but that's a lot more positive experience.
I know,
than
but
confused.
it took 8 years. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been possible a little sooner, because I have to travel so much work and everything. It took that long, but this is the first meeting, Confused, and there's no name here, Confused. Your first meeting, give it a bit of time, be patient. It's really great that you have such a great relationship with your family that you're in now, and I think that actually puts you in a strong position to have an open heart with your mother. Your biological mother is just as important as your parents who brought you up. That's what I think anyway. You can't say one's better than the other.
Joe.
Well, I can't for one moment pretend to understand what it must be like not to know your own mother. But I think you have to think about you in this situation. Fiona did have a positive experience, but I think you've almost answered your own question. I don't think I can put up with her selfishness. Don't write her off just yet, but think of yourself first. And if you don't want to meet with her again for a long time, you don't have to. Think about yourself here. I firmly believe that being a mother is not a God-given right. I think you have to earn it, and I think your adopted parents have taken on that responsibility, and as Fiona said, gone the hard yards with you. So this woman doesn't have a right to interfere with your life if you don't want her to. So really think about it.
Well, she gave up the right, really, didn't she? And now she's seeking, and clearly confused, as conceded the point, because I think the kid who was adopted has to agree to meeting the birth mother.
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't that the law? So she said yes, and now isn't terribly thrilled with the experience. So does she have a right now to shut the woman out again because she's not good company?
Life with full parents, and she's obviously happy. And if this woman is making you unhappy, I would not pursue it.
No.
Maybe give her another chance. Be aware that there's so much baggage, even without even realising, so many subtle undercurrent things that you can't even put a word to, or a name to. It's just a feeling you have, and I think just give her maybe another chance.
Cyclone Prue, you've got to take on this. What, should she be shot?
I think she is a selfish cow, and I can't stand people who have a little bit of adversity in their lives who then travel through it. Travel through it saying the world owes me a living. I mean, she clearly is resentful of your life. She hasn't stopped for a minute to think about what she did to you and what you may be feeling in this meeting. So, look, there are some people, it's sad to say that some of us in our lives find that the people that are there happen to be our parents, whether they're birth parents or not, can disappoint, and it's a sad reality of life. In this case, being a very charitable woman as I am, I would say to you that perhaps you should see her again, but I would be very guarded about it. But there is baggage, as Fiona and Joe has said, but I wouldn't indulge her too much, because frankly, she's the one who gave you away. You are lucky that you had birth parents that gave you a very well-rounded life and created a wonderful individual and a successful individual. And I admire your sense of balance. But, I think this is really going to be a bitch, basically, in your life.
They say you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your relatives. Well, kind of in this case, confused, you can. You have the luxury, I suspect, of saying, having experienced this woman, that you really don't want her in your life. And I'd give it another go, I suspect. But if it doesn't work out, say no more. Thank you very much. Yeah. Cleo?
Well, there's one thing we haven't explored, which is that possibly the old bird, who's come to you and jumped off the cliff, was doing nervous babble, trying to justify herself, because clearly she obviously feels either guilty or desirous enough to meet with you again. And the people that I'm quite close to in my life that have been adopted have left it shrouded in mystery, because that's their greatest fear, is that they're going to actually jump off the cliff, meet their birth parent or birth mother. It seems to be the mother that draws the most. And it won't be fulfilling, and they will be disappointed, and they've left it that way. So I can understand that it must have been a bit devastating and you wanted something different. But there's a great quote about loving your family and all their outrageous, flawed humanity. I would say give the bird another chance, because the wellspring of healing that Fiona mentioned would be such an amazing payoff, and the forgiveness that you would feel. And if she turns out to be a nightmare, as you say, you can pull the lever. You do have that luxury.
Very intimidating to discover your birth mother and figure that you don't like her, and then realise that your DNA is directly descended from that person. Agnes?
It's true what Doug says, we don't get to choose our relatives, and most of us have our parents as an accident of birth, but you were so lucky because you were chosen by people who dearly wanted you and who you clearly adore, and I don't think anyone will ever replace that relationship. But I do think you should just keep a low gear relationship with your mother. Yes, she is flawed and she's problematic, and I don't think you should take her problems on board, but I think there's a day in everybody's life when they realise that their parents are just ordinary people like the rest of us, and they make mistakes. And yes, I do think you should continue a relationship with her.
One day my kids are going to find out, that I'm not perfect, and that's going to be a dreadful day for them, I suspect. Maybe they'll be watching this show. Jeannie?
Confused, darling. Listen, tell her to just, you both met each other, that's it. It was nice saying hello. That's the end of it. Because the real mother in any upbringing is the one who scrubs and cleans and saves and scrimps and scrapes and takes you to school and picks you up and, cooks and everything, doing all the hard yakka. So some other birth mother can't just walk in and say, hi, I'm your mother, and take over from there.
There you are, confused. Jeannie's just called your real mother a scrubber.
Yeah.
We'll return with a letter from a very odd but jolly fellow right after this.